Welcome to another episode of I So Bloom, a place where growth gets real, healing isn't linear, and emotional intelligence takes center stage. I am your host, Mario Reyes, and as always, I got the squad with me.
Yes,
I'd like to introduce Mr. Chris Classic.
What up, what up?
Mr. Jamal Shelton.
What's up, beautiful people?
Dr. Curtis Jasper.
What's good, yo?
And we have an esteemed guest today. Not only is he a revolutionary, a pastor, the leader for today's time, he's also a newly married man. We'd like to welcome Pastor Dr. Jamal Bryant. How are you today, sir?
Man, I'm glad to be in the circle, sir. Yes, sir.
Glad to have you, man.
Yes, definitely. So today's conversation is going to be about mentorship in fatherhood. Because sometimes fathers don't show up as biological, right? Sometimes it's the OG on the block or the pastor at church.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about that. And also I want to touch on some of the civic work you're doing.
Thank you.
But I'm going to get right to it. First, how are you feeling?
Man, I am excited and expectant.
Okay.
I am at a place of doing the work, but excited about the scaffold. It ain't finished, but I see the cement being mixed.
Awesome.
We're just coming out of an amazing boycott around Target. And in 70 years, black people have not been this intentional about spending in 70 years.
It's beautiful.
And to see it, Jamil, happen when it wasn't endorsed by any civil rights organization, by any black denomination, by none of the Divine Nine, but happen as a organic social media move is just awe-inspiring. So whether you are a grandmother or a Gen Z, everybody's saying no to Target, means that the work is really happening and people are positioned to do something.
And what inspired you to take that step? I feel like there was a lot of chatter going on online. What made you be the one to say, you know what, I'm ready to pick up this flag and this is the march we're doing? Yeah,
so I didn't pick up the flag. Some amazing sisters in Minneapolis started it as a grassroots effort. So I want to give a shout out to them. And I don't want them to say I stole their stuff. So the sisters started it. I took the ball and called it a Target Fast because I wanted the black church to be involved. The black church has not been the name or the face of civil rights in 25 years. And we saw something happen that I was just talking about recently. The Black Lives Matter was the very first movement for black people that was not birthed out of the black church. Wow. And not led by a black leader, faith leader. And so because of that, the younger generation doesn't see the value of the church. It's as if our hand is not on the pulse of what's taking place. So I interjected the black church into a train that was already moving.
Oh, I love that.
Pastor, may I ask you, what did you learn about yourself as well as our people throughout the strike that kind of really stood out to you?
Is that people want leadership, and leadership requires courage. Around black men, let me say to you that the Obama era of leadership is gone. People are not looking for diplomacy. They don't want a boxer, they want a pugilist. Who's gonna fight without the gloves on? Don't tie up your hands. Right. Don't put Vaseline on your face. Get bloody. The Donald Trump, Elon Musk era has ushered in that the rule is there are no rules. So black men know how to fight without rules. You telling me that I can fight for the rib cage? Right. We know how to do that. Right. Are you sure these are the rules? Right. And so black people are looking for what is the audacity of courage, what is the fearlessness. Picasso said you can't break the rules unless you know them. And so we've got to really understand that there are two different playing fields. So what Trump can do, what Elon Musk can do, Christian can't do that.
Yeah.
We can't just throw away the Constitution and act like it doesn't exist. But we have to understand the brilliance of resistance, of knowing how to color outside the lines and know how to write in calligraphy and cursive and still get it done as an art form.
Now, with your leadership in the largest boycott in 70 years, how do you tie in economic protests with the legacy building for future economic growth of black fathers and black families?
Yeah, I think that it's all economics. Dr. King said the next step after civil rights is civil rights. He confided to Harry Belafonte and said, I think I've integrated the Negro into a burning house. What's the point of me getting black people to a lunch counter and they can't afford a hamburger? And so if we don't have an economic agenda, then it's just warm and fuzzy emotionalism. So we got to figure out, how do we do strategic spending? If we've got $2 trillion worth of spending power, black people do, and here is the insult and the injury, is that how do I claim victory leading a black movement and I push people to Costco?
Yeah.
That ain't a black-owned business.
Yeah.
So we cheering that Costco doing great. We not receiving that. And so part of our ask was saying to Target, partner with some HBCU business programs to show young black students, how do I scale the business? How do I franchise? How do I get it to the next level? So we got to be able to do more than sell chicken wings and bundles and waist trainers and T-shirts and incense. But getting into that business place, I think that there is no real model if economics isn't tied to it. And so while it is that I was pulling people away from Target, I was redirecting them to the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce that had an app of 150,000 black businesses that people could support nationwide. You can't tell people what not to do without telling them what to do.
Well, I think it's important that we have that database, because everybody wants to support black businesses, black companies, but when we start shopping for cars, we don't even know where we could even begin.
The second largest Mercedes-Benz dealership in America is here in Atlanta. Buckhead Mercedes is owned by a black man.
Really?
Yeah, so we got to go beyond the veneer, beyond the veil. There's a lot of black people who are doing stuff. We have associated influence with social media.
That part.
That's not what makes you a leader. And your visibility is not your currency. It's got to be, what am I doing behind the scenes to really make this stuff happen?
Oh, I think me and him talk about this all the time. One of the things that I see often is, people will associate your value based on the amount of followers you have.
Yeah.
But when we're outside touching the streets of Atlanta, in every single corner, hood, or business or table with VPs, we're always representing.
Yeah.
So when people they start, spilling their venom at you and saying, well, you're not doing, which I know you have to deal with a lot of the ghost comments and the hate online. It's like, but I'm actually trying to make this change in real life.
We can pull up receipts.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to also commend you for not only encouraging and incentivizing our community to act in that way, but you also immediately modeled the behavior, right? Carlton, Mackey is one of my best friends, and he's like a brother to me. So seeing what you've done specifically for Black Men Smile, it's I have a heat press, when I want to press T-shirts and stuff like that, and he has both of them, because he was like, I don't have any inventory left because it was all sold out. And
good problems.
Great problems to have, and I'm 500 orders back that working 24-hour shifts to meet the need.
Listen, when you give black people their money, they want their product.
Right.
Tell them to hire somebody.
Yes. So I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledged, from my perspective, what I was able to see firsthand, not only vocalizing a message, but modeling it.
It
Because
was important for me because I am now attempting to lead a generation that is not impressed by oration but demonstration.
Correct.
They're not going to quote your speeches.
Yes.
Yes. They want to know what seed did you put in the ground. And so I was glad to be able to partner and model it publicly because I think that's what all of us need to do.
Correct.
Is that never in the history of white people has anybody ever walked out of a white restaurant and say, "This is why I don't support white business."
Sure. Oh my God.
Ever.
For sure. That hurt my heart.
No, really.
For real.
You know, so
Because I've walked out of Cracker Barrel mad a lot of times.
Listen, man. When I get to the next town, I'm going to the next Cracker Barrel. Right.
They might have a better cook.
Believing the peach pancakes are going to be better in Georgia than it was in South Carolina. We got to give ourselves that kind of grace.
Now you got an interesting disposition, and I always find myself trying to balance and juggle the different hats we wear. Right?
Yeah.
You're a leader in the community.
Yeah.
You are a leader at church.
Yeah.
You know, new birth.
Yes.
Phenomenal work you guys do there.
Thank you, sir.
And then you also are a father.
Yes.
How do you service all of these innumerable people
Yeah.
and still make home feel like the safe place it's supposed to and feel prioritized?
I haven't. I have epically failed at the illusion called balance. Balance suggests equal weight,
For sure.
and I've not done that. Prior to getting remarried, I was divorced for 11 years. The last 5 years I've been in Atlanta while my children were in Maryland. And so remote control parenting is not effective. And operating as a remote control parent, you become secondary. And so I am grateful unto God. My 3 youngest girls are all in HBCUs. My 2 oldest have already graduated. That they have had incredible mothers who have stood in the gap. But I have not always made the best decisions or the wisest choices or the most prudent counsel. And I am, and I know we'll deal with it secondarily in this conversation, I am not the product of my upbringing.
Wow.
I am the first person in my family to get a divorce. My mother passed last year in September.
Condolences.
Thank you. My parents were married 55 years. My maternal grandparents were married 63. My paternal grandparents were married 65. And so getting divorced was the very first time I heard my dad say he was disappointed in me.
Wow.
And so my bar mitzvah, my bro mitzvah happened later in life. And so I went against what was modeled. And many times when you all talk about mentorship, it's for young men who don't have an example, who haven't seen what's supposed to get done. Both my parents have doctorate degrees, had doctorate degrees. My children represent 4th generation HBCU. And so, so I knew what to do. It is the late Jawanza Kunjufu who had a book, To Be Popular or Smart. That you reject what is right to fit in with culture's standard of what is cool. And so having one woman wasn't cool. Monogamy ain't cool. Having a stable background wasn't cool. So I was raised on the Cosby Show, but was drawn to Good Times. So, sometimes
Dr. Kurt says all the time that you can't get everything you need from one man anyway. So when we talk about the examples that you have from your father, and
I got everything I needed from him.
Really?
Wow.
I got everything I needed from him.
Wow.
Everything I'd done right in life I got from my dad. Everything I've done wrong I chose on my own.
Wow.
And so my dad was the model for me of balanced black masculinity. He is one of the cornerstones of liberation theology. My dad sent me to live in Liberia, West Africa for my last year of high school. He's one of the first to do the Peace Corps. My dad, I've never heard my dad cuss a day in his life. My dad is 81. I've never seen my dad smoke. I've never seen my dad drink. And my dad's liability to me was modeling perfection.
Wow.
Well,
So I didn't have space. I didn't have space for failure. Yeah.
Pastor, may I ask, I know your dad is a pastor as well. Growing up, was there any internal pressure for you to follow in his footsteps?
He didn't want me to preach.
He did not.
No. So I came to Morehouse political science and international studies. I went to Duke for law school and dropped out my first semester and went to seminary.
Wow.
When I told my dad that I wanted to pastor, he's like, "Are you sure?" I knew I was called to ministry, but I saw myself in the Jesse Jackson Sharpton model of being a preacher but not a pastor.
and then your sister followed as well.
My sister's a clinical psychologist who is,
Love her.
yeah, me too. She is, what's the word I want? She's a jackleg preacher. My sister's is the outgoing president of the American Psychological Association. She's a professor at Pepperdine University.
I just saw her at St. Philip's. She
Yes.
gave a sermon, and you know when you were supposed to be in the building?
Oh, yeah.
She said, "All right, y'all, we're going to go from St. Philip's to St. Philip's open mic." And her sermon was so poetic.
Oh, no,
it was a performance, absolutely
Listen,
amazing.
she's more your sister than mine. Oh, no, she used to do the poetry slams and do all of that. So, no, my sister is the child my parents deserved.
I felt the same
Oh,
way.
yeah, no, I take full responsibility for my parents' prayer life. They did not know how to pray till I came along. But my sister's great. She's a rock star.
I'm curious, how would you, I like the way you really framed everything from your father to the way that you father.
Yeah.
So how would you define fatherhood in a society that either asks black men to be Superman or also believes that we're invisible?
Yeah, I think that fathers only show the highlight tapes. And we need to show the tackles as well as the touchdown. So we keep saying you got to win, you got to make honor roll, you got to go to college, you got to make six figures. And we don't talk about our struggles and our failures.
Yes, sir.
And I think that fathers do one or the other. We either show all the touchdowns or bemoan all the tackles. So I'm not doing all this because I ain't have a dad, because I ain't go to school, because nobody helped me. And I think that you got to find that Cirque du Soleil balancing act of showing the word that we used offline, your authenticity.
Absolutely.
Of saying, this is where my bruise is. This is where my wounds are. This is where it is that I got a scrape on my knee.
Right.
But still get up.
And we've learned from
Still
that.
go out
You
for
give
the team.
permission. You give permission. When you do so, when you can stand up and be fearless in your authentic self, you're giving permission for each brother next to you to really enable them to do the same thing. And that's when you can really have those transformable conversations.
Yeah.
That's when that takes place, man.
I just talked about last week, to answer your question, I'm going around the mulberry bush, but to answer your question, I preached about last week at New Birth that the first emotion, Doc, I'm giving this to you for free, first emotion ever expressed in the Bible is shame. Not joy, not pride. God, going through the garden and see shame. I parented out of shame. The shame of divorce for my 3 kids, and then shame of unmarried parenthood for the other two.
Wow.
And having to do self-inflicted reparations.
What
From my
did
own-
that look like?
What did that look like is, I'm giving you this bag. I'm taking you on this trip. 12-year-olds have no reason to have dinner at Ruth Chris and it ain't graduation
Yeah.
night.
Right.
There's no reason at all.
Right.
And I think that I put myself in a level of purgatory without ever absolving myself. I believed as a preacher that God forgives me. The question was, did I forgive myself?
Right.
And so overworking. So I did a lot of stuff unhealthily under the guise of protection. So I made up my own rule. I'm not introducing nobody to my daughters till I'm getting married. So
I
just
actually
before
had
I'm
that
getting
rule
engaged,
as well.
yeah. So just before I got engaged, hey, y'all meet Carrie. The problem is, my girls never saw me date.
Wow. They didn't see the process.
They never saw the process.
They don't know what courting looked like
They
from their
didn't
father's
know.
eyes.
Yes. So I was so busy, Christian, courting my daughters that they never saw me process. So let me treat y'all right because I didn't treat your mama right. So everything that I didn't do in the marriage or do in the relationship, I'm going to do it in my parenting, and it's not effective. And so as a consequence, my daughters, I have twins who are 19, next is 20, next 25, next 27. They don't introduce nobody to me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I got to
what we're
find
taught.
out people by accident.
So do you feel
Who
like
you
that is-
FaceTiming?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's indicative of the term "the sins of the father are born unto the child"?
I don't.
No.
I don't.
How would you interpret that?
I would interpret it as PTSD.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think they inherited my sin. They are the casualties of my trauma.
That's good, bro. That's good.
Yeah, and I have to figure out how to, so busy trying to safeguard them from that,
Yeah.
that I don't even know that I am pushing them to an unhealed me.
Have you always had this level of self-awareness?
No.
Where did
We
this,
in therapy right now.
You ain't never,
No,
ergo, Dr. Kirk.
absolutely not.
may I ask, where did this level, can you pinpoint a time or era in your life that you became more self-aware?
Yeah, I would not say there is an event as much as there are moments. So there's not one defining moment. There are bumps in the road.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to be, I use this analogy, Jamil, that there's always space to be Superman. But how do you be Clark Kent in a culture that no longer has phone booths? So we walking around with tights. Yeah, I mean,
Literally and figuratively.
yeah. Because there's no place for us to change. So
Yeah.
I got to be Superman all the time, and nobody ever asks critical questions.
And it's
why?
chaos.
Why does Superman need glasses?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Why does Superman? I'll go another way, and I don't know where this is gonna take us. Why does Superman fall in love with a woman who has no powers?
Uh-oh.
So,
Did you see her profile?
yeah, listen. Yeah, and so I kept going the lowest lane for people who just liked me being fly, but couldn't handle me looking for a phone booth.
Damn.
Yeah.
You know, we had a whole conversation, episode about transparency. It was with Chivy, well, Alfred Chivy Brooks.
Yeah.
He, when we talked about the difference between transparency and honesty.
Yeah.
Honesty is very black and white.
Yeah.
Transparency provides context. It's
Yeah.
all the metadata.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for really being a transparent person in this seat, because not only did you just answer the question, but you framed it with your stories. So when we hear about the tropes of absenteeism in the black household,
Yeah.
how would you encourage a younger brother that is having a story written and narrative written about him that isn't fact?
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to necessarily disrupt the peace, if there is any, between him and the child's mother?
Yeah. It is, I don't know when this is airing, but I'll say for the brother who's watching that regrettably last week Job Corps closed.
That's crazy. That's
So that-
my question. Yeah.
So that
Wow.
So there's no place for you to get the training.
Wow.
You got to find the hammer and nail and know sometimes your thumb will be the victim. And I had to really process, for me, separating the mother from the children. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of times as men, because of what's going on with the mother, I can't deal with the child.
Yeah.
It just becomes too much and overbearing. Is that you got to throw yourself into the fire, knowing that you're not going to be appreciated or celebrated.
Right.
You never hear the cheerleaders when the team is winning.
Right.
You only bring out the cheerleaders when you lose.
Down. Yeah.
And men want cheerleaders for the whole game. But I bought them shoes.
Right.
But I bought school supplies.
Right.
You ain't thank me for that.
Right.
But I took them to Universal Circus. We keep wanting cheerleaders when that's what we're supposed to do. There's no extra credit for doing that. And so learning how to perform when nobody's in the stand.
Wow.
Pastor, let me ask you a question. You touched on balance, right? And I do a lot of work around balance. I like to substitute balance with harmony. Tell us more about how balance shows up in your life on a daily basis.
Yeah. I'm going to take yours on harmony. Growing up in the church, choirs used to have something for Gen Z. You don't even know what I'm getting ready to say. They used to have something called 4-part harmony. Right? It's alto, soprano, tenor, and bass. Now the average church that you go to got 3 women singing tenor.
Right.
Is that really harmony? Because they know the key. The harmony is finding out how different keys can play in unison but still keep your own instrument.
Indeed.
So for years, I used to play trumpet before I got to Morehouse. I played trumpet for many years. And the harmony is knowing why would a flute be in the same band as a trombone? Because when the trombone is really playing, you can't hear the flute. But it's the undercurrent of that harmony that makes it necessary. Men have got to figure out, how do I mute the baritone so I can hear the soprano?
That's good. That's good.
You mean internally, like balancing your masculine and feminine energy?
I'm saying in
your life.
externally and dealing with that mother. I'm still with you.
Gotcha. All right.
I'm still.
I just started interpreting all types of different ways. That I wanted.
No. Is that finding that humility is not weakness. I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to let you be wrong. I'm going to let you even win if it's the bigger battle. So if you saying to me, I can take the girl for the weekend, but don't let your girlfriend do the hair. Are you now saying, oh, well, now I ain't going to take the girl for the weekend?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
let's figure out another way to get it done.
Figure out the parameters.
Of finding out what is that harmony, and everybody's band is different. I'm an 80s baby, so there's an old show called Name That Tune. 2 1/4 notes. I can tell you what it is. And so figuring out what works in Christian's house ain't going to work for me.
Yeah.
What works in Jamil's house ain't going to work for me, and finding out that conductor. Because I'm a trumpet player. Miles Davis is my guy. And in a interview in Paris, he said something critical. They asked him, the writer from Rolling Stone said, hundreds of people have come to hear you in this amphitheater, and you have played the entire concert with your band to the audience. Why aren't you facing them? And he said, because they came to hear me, not see me.
Wow.
What can you turn your back to and still perform? And so for men, can I turn my back to you not appreciate me?
Yeah.
Can I turn my back to me not being valued if at the end of the day I'm not doing it for that mother's approval?
You got to talk about removing the ego.
Removing that ego.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm Nikki Giovanni. I'm ego tripping. So for me to put that down was my last crucible. That was my broken. But humility is not one of my gifts of the Spirit. I had to pray for that. To say, God, help me with it.
I'm with you.
Yeah, without it, breaking who it is that I am. So that was a journey and a process.
Is it still a journey and a process? Is it still something that you have to consistently do, or is it finished? Are you now a new version of yourself?
No, you always got to go through that. The hardest, and I'm preaching to the choir, the hardest people to be humble are men that are gifted. Yeah. So all of us have gone. All of us have gone through journeys, and if we do an autopsy on it, our kryptonite was our giftedness. Yeah, it's
Rely on
Pastor,
it too much.
I have a question. As a pastor, as a leader, as a mentor, as a father, as a husband, trumpet player.
Yeah. Not no more.
No,
I don't want nobody bringing a trumpet out from the back. I can't do nothing.
I want to hear the collab album with Andre.
Right.
How important is tone in providing? Okay, so when I was 17, I started to live with my aunt and uncle, and subsequently started going to church with them. Right.
Yes.
And so that's where I learned and became a huge fan and also adjutant of Bishop E. Bernard Jordan, right? Yes. And so understanding how the prophetic can perhaps rub people the wrong way. I learned a lot about tone from Bishop Jordan.
Yeah.
How, in your harmony, balance, how important is tone in what you do, and what does tone do for messaging for fathers?
Everything. And so you can't. My Michael Jordan is Dr. King. So you can't talk about Dr. King without talking about his tone. Yeah, his tone was almost as important as his content, given the times that he was in. I don't know, and I'm doing this as critical thinkers and analysis. I don't know if King would have been as effective talking about nonviolence sounding like Jakes.
That
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, your tone and that atmosphere matters. And I'm talking about in the preaching moment, Bishop is ambidextrous, talking about business and Wells Fargo and billions of dollars. I'm talking about in that preaching moment, what were you articulating and what was the intention of that tone? And I was more mindful of my tone in the pulpit than I was mindful of tone with my partner.
Was that something you got from your father?
Is what?
The tone.
No, I got tone out of failure. So your real tone or your real key is how do you sound angry? Yeah, all of us laugh in the same key. Yeah, the real psychology Doc would have to give us is songs in the key of life, Stevie Wonder. What those tracks mean are the different tone of intimacy and frustration and love and expectation. All of them are played in a different key.
Absolutely.
Because it's touching a different level of my molecular structure of who it is that I am that ascends to my pheromones, of what am I really communicating. And so all of that is wrapped up in our tone. If I came into this meeting or this podcast and said to the four of you in my opening, praise the Lord, I could have said it simple, but it would have set the tone of a different conversation.
Indeed.
Like, oh, Rev on that on Monday.
Let me throw some of these questions away, right?
Yeah. So tone is not always octave.
This episode is so crazy. The same reason why I love going to New Birth. Every time I come back, I have 4 poems that I know I could write. Because he'll say something, I'll be like, oh, that's going in there,
Oh,
or
yeah.
that sparks an idea. And tone, when I think about tonage, when you said that you were mindful at church, but not at the house.
Yeah.
One of the things, I stopped drinking about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I realized that my tone at home was starting to look too much like I was talking in the streets.
Yeah.
And my children and my wife don't deserve that.
Right.
So I
That's great.
salute to you for being able to articulate it like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that all of us should take going forward.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm real quick that I so bloom becomes I so boom, and now I'm acting like a Bronx dude. And that doesn't really push the conversation and grow forward at all.
Doc, I want you to interpret the tone men have when we go silent.
Yeah, that's real good.
Doc wasn't ready for that one.
Yeah, I mean, but you know,
His silence is speaking volume.
external silence is critically loud internally, right? Just because a man appears to be silent outside, it's loud, it's noisy, it's crazy in the inside, right? And so oftentimes men go silent because of the dissociation, right? Because the volume and the amount of different voices going on in the head is so enormous. They cannot even get their voice over the voices that's going on in the inside.
That's great.
To verbalize it to the public.
Correct.
Wow.
The chaos inside
Correct.
Yeah.
has to be.
Right. So it's not a deliberate withdrawal necessarily, right? Brothers go silent. I go silent. The challenge is to front load your life going silent, spending time silently first thing in the morning, right? Then you won't have to use it as a default structure, right? The goal is to serve as a result of gifting yourself with silence.
Doc, I need to ask you a favor. Seriously.
Yes, sir.
I need you to ask you a favor because men go silent when we're frustrated, when we're angry, when we're depressed, when we're contemplative. I want to flip it for just one moment.
Yeah, it's gonna be last time. You're not gonna hijack the podcast.
No. I got to ask. Yeah, no, listen to me.
I'm send the church an invoice
Yes,
too, though.
send it. No. I need you to do this on behalf of the brothers. I want you, for the women who are in our lives, on what they need to do when we are silent.
Nice alley-oop, Pastor. Great alley-oop.
No, really, because
Ladies, take notes. Please.
really, because us having to articulate the silence pulls us out of the silence, and now we're more frustrated.
Yep.
We're more angry. So I want to just play this segment and say, watch, Doc, this is all I was trying to say. No, seriously.
No, this is good. I don't publicly share that I do a lot of work behind the scenes with women groups, right? And of course they have a bunch of how-to questions. How to? And I often remind women that your presence is enough. You pressuring a man to break his silence is part of the challenge, right? You gotta know that your presence is enough. Your presence, your breath work, right? The mere fact that you're there. Now this goes for women who are also raising black boys. So this goes for moms, this goes for wives, this goes for mothers, right? Oftentimes they become uncomfortable with men's silence, right? Like he just won't express. And so I jokingly say, well, just because he ain't talking to you don't mean he ain't talking. Like, let's be clear, right?
Do that now.
Right.
You gonna open up Pandora's box. So who he talking to?
Exactly. So that often
Let me
gives
see your
them,
phone.
that often brings them back to the reality that like it's in there and it'll eventually come out.
Yeah.
But there are some practical things that women could do. And I offer women to just present and be present, right? You have to check in as a woman to see what is it that you're uncomfortable about with the man's silence.
That's good.
Like what's that about for you, right? Because it's a large projection of women. Like they've been silent for, or at least men in their lives long before you showed up, right? They've been silenced. They've had fathers who didn't say, different things to them. So a lot of men catch the heat of being scrutinized because of their silence, because the woman who they've chosen to be in their life has a previous association with a man being silent in their life.
Wow.
That's great.
Wow.
That's almost like a disconnection.
It is. So it's but here's the beauty behind it from a spiritual standpoint. That's the work. Like y'all both signed up for it, right? It's something to push through outside of pressing the man. Like, well, he just won't talk. And I'm like, he's talking.
I appreciate that, Doc.
Talking.
All right, so Bloom, we are now on to the next segment of the podcast, which is Brother with Feelings. Dr. Bryant, as you can see, you have cards.
Yes.
We're not playing spades today.
Yes.
Today.
Yes. Tell me when y'all
However,
ready now. I'm a spades champion.
I believe, Guesto, I believe you have been not only professional but also deeply insightful and personal. So I'm voting, I think, 3 versus
So the G's
1.
being the guest, which
Yeah.
is you.
No, listen, I done took your card. I ain't
Jamel
a G.
is like the
I'm
reigning champ, though.
Yes,
Don't get it
no,
twisted.
that's
Jamel
great.
got like 7 stickers.
No, I accept. Thank you.
Well, now, as an illustrious
Oh,
member
Lord.
of our new fraternity, the
Yes.
Brother with Feelings,
Yes.
you are going to be gifted with a nice sticker for you to put over your lapel.
Oh, thank you.
That says, brother, you got to open it up. Help him out.
Help me
Help him
out. He just. Oh, here it is. I got it.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go. Brother with
Welcome
Feelings.
to the club,
Yeah.
Gamal. Welcome to the
Thank you.
club.
It's a
But
secret
I'm the only
society.
one
All
with
we
a
ask
sticker
is
on.
honesty.
How much of it is a secret and I got a sticker on?
Now, with that being said, the floor is yours. You have 2 minutes to say whatever you would like to as it pertains to fatherhood to the brothers at home and or sisters.
Yeah. I would say find a support circle. And that your support circle has got to be your accountability circle. And I want to give a story in a minute and a half that I got left. When I went through my divorce, I had a good friend who pastors in Cleveland, Ohio, named R.A. Vernon. And R.A. Vernon called me once my divorce went public and said, man, I really thought we were boys. I said, oh, no, we boys. He said, man, I really thought we were friends. I said, no, we good friends. He said, we talk every Sunday, talk about what each other preached, talk about how the church grew, how many people were there. I said, yeah. He said, and all of them Sunday nights, you never told me you was cheating on your wife.
Wow.
So my wife is looking at me, want to know what kind of friends are we?
Wow.
That I only talked about my success but not my struggles. And so I would say fathers, brothers, men, get you a support circle who you can struggle with but will not be found guilty of aiding and abetting your weakness.
Right.
Yeah, don't get friends who are just your alibi. Get friends who will charge you and challenge you for you to be your higher self. Or else you either have a construction crew or a demolition crew. So the people who you're with either are going to build you up or help tear you down. And it's all dependent on what your circle is able to do.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's good.
I want to thank my circle right here because I can honestly say, and Chanel could attest to this, I have no weak links. She knows if I call Jamel, Chris, Dr. Kurt, I'm going to come back a better man.
That's great.
And more balanced. And so salute to y'all brothers.
Likewise.
That's a personal thank you.
Likewise.
For sure.
Yeah, the type of conversations we have off camera doing car rides are just invaluable, man. I mean, there's so many times I've reached out to y'all brothers when I'm going through something, and to hop off the phone knowing that I got the best information, even if it's not something that I may not agree with, my heart wasn't with, I know I got the best information is just invaluable. So I absolutely appreciate you all.
And that's really what he's talking about too, the accountability
Absolutely.
and holding that mirror like, oh, I'm not this image that I've created.
Yeah.
You know, my character is more important than the accomplishments. And I like to always flag and wave the accomplishment. Yeah, but what does that look like inside, bro? What is that?
Yeah.
Where you're failing at look like?
It's-
How are you managing it?
Yeah.
And being able to have conversations about goals is super important too, because a lot of times, you know, we don't have conversations with people that we may not know, you know, very well. We're only having these conversations in our own little bubble, right? And so sometimes what happens is we forget to share what our goals and aspirations are.
Yeah.
Because once you tell me your goals, once you tell me your aspirations, I'm able to hold you accountable to that standard. And so when you're dealing with a struggle, now I know what you may need to hear to get back on track. If you've never communicated your goals, your aspirations, what you're working towards, then when you're dealing with the struggle, I don't really know how to help you. I don't know how to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
And if we're not aligned, I may not even have the knowledge or understanding
That you're going through.
myself to even give you some advice. Now I'm just listening to you and being a yes man. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's important to, you know, like you said, it's a crew. It's either construction or demolition. So being able to know the plan, there's still a plan of work
What-
is necessary.
What's your take on like holding yourself accountable?
Yeah.
How would you give somebody a suggestion on how to do that?
Yeah. I'm gonna say something
That was great.
that my wife is gonna kill me for saying, but I'm gonna say it. What happens when you don't have that circle is, I'll use as an example Puffy. Okay? Puffy had staff, not friends. So in 3 weeks, we don't have one character witness of a friend. It's drivers, it's security, it's publicists.
All on the payroll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's everybody who is on payroll. And we can debate all of the nuances of domestic violence and all of the human trafficking and RICO, all of that. I don't want to discuss that in this space. What I want to say is, where are your friends? Because wealth makes you more of who you are broke.
Absolutely.
And so if you don't have anybody to help you at this level, when I reach that goal,
Yeah.
I still need somebody. And a lot of people, men, only look up to who has more than them.
Yeah.
And that can't be your litmus test.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that my friendship can't be on accomplishment or currency or degree, but who has the weight of character to say, hey, man, while I'm happy, you just got the raise.
Right.
While I'm glad you and the wife going to Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
Don't forget,
Yeah.
you got a mother that's sick you ain't seen.
Yeah.
That's your little brother doing time and you ain't written him since Christmas.
Yeah.
So you need those kind of friends that will be able to hold your feet to the fire. So accountability is getting Al Gore's book, The Inconvenient Truth. Who loves me enough to say I got sleep in my eye?
Yeah.
You know, my mother used to say,
how
Aretha
you know
Franklin,
who your
they
real
have
friends
no
are.
real girlfriends, because they wouldn't have let her get out there with their dress on. You gotta have somebody.
Come back here. We
Yeah,
can't
that
have you
ain't
in
it.
public.
That's
Like,
not
no.
it, right?
That's awesome. Well, on to the final segment, which is,
What you trying to kick knowledge?
you trying to kick knowledge?
Yeah, man, this is good, man. My work is easy because I get to steal everything that y'all was saying. It's easy, so I thank you, Pastor Jamal and my brothers, man. This is really good. I want to drive home a couple points just to tie it up, particularly since this is a Father's Day edition. And I share this with men publicly. Like, in spite of what you've been through and what you did, you still get to be proud about who you are.
Thank you.
You still get to be proud about who you are. In spite of what you've been through, what happened to you, and the pain and the mistakes that you even caused. But here's one of the beautiful things that we just threw around, so just this whole accountability thing, right? And I've been saying this for years. Support is a synonym for accountability. Accountability is a synonym for support. And as you mentioned, Pastor, they don't go, you can't uncollapse them, right? To be gifted with support, there is an accountability piece. As a matter of fact, without the accountability piece, therein lies no support.
No support, yeah.
Right? And so, and I learned that in very difficult times. Disappointment came up, right? You mentioned, Pastor, about the one time you heard your father share his disappointments when you got divorced. And disappointment is a heavy weight that brothers carry, right? Because it's peppered with shame and it's held up with unforgiveness, right? But generally speaking, disappointment is the feelings and emotions as a result of unmet expectations, right? The appointment went this way, right? We had an appointment, it went this way. And oftentimes, there's a huge forgiveness piece that one must gift themselves. And to the degree that you've been carrying that unforgiveness is to the same degree that you got to continue to lay down that forgiveness piece. So in closing, we as brothers get to be proud about who we are in spite of the things that we've done, caused, and been through. That's what I got, y'all.
That's good, man.
Put a ribbon on it.
Well,
great.
lastly, I would like to thank you,
Thank you.
Pastor Bryant.
Good
Yes,
to be
sir.
with you all.
Always a
Thank
pleasure.
you all for
Always.
initiating me in the fraternity. I'm glad to
Definitely,
be here.
definitely. And to those at home, remember that a son with no father is a book with no author. Be your best version of yourself for them.
Wow.
Happy Father's Day.
Yes,
Peace.
sir.